Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today it's kind of a gloomy day, and I've been trying to figure out what exactly that I wanted to do for dinner to make me feel warm and cozy on the inside, and I thought what better thing to do than to come to the grocery store and just kind of browse around and figure out what I'm feeling. And then we're going to go back to camp and we're going to cook and have just a delightful time. Now, on days like today, a lot of times what I like to do is work a little bit. So I took myself to Starbucks, I sat down and I worked for a few hours while it was raining outside so that I didn't miss out on anything. I got everything done that I needed to get done, and now I'm ready to go back and have a productive evening at my campsite where I relax and treat myself kindly. So I'm going to start off, since the rain has let up just a little bit, by going into Country Mart and finding some food. Shopping was interesting. Coming to different stores, things are laid out so differently. And so I kind of wandered around for a while trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to make. And I was chatting with Riley, and she had mentioned that she had just made this dish that I taught her about. And I was like, ooh, I could make the other version of that so you guys could see how versatile it really is. So that's what we're gonna do today. Let's get this party started and get to camp. Now, this is something that I've made many times whenever I'm just tired and I want to throw it in the oven whenever I'm at base camp. But I thought I could probably make this on the road too. And so when Riley and I were talking about that she had made the other version of this in the Omni, I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely make it in the RoadPro then, no problem. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back, I'm going to mix everything up, show you guys all of the ingredients, and show you that it really is something that you guys can do. You don't have to do a lot of exterior cooking. You can buy all the ingredients at the store, and all you really need is one good bowl to mix up your stuff in, and then you put it into your cooker of choice. Again, you can use an Omnia, you can use a RoadPro, you can use a Hot Logic, or you could even probably make this in an actual camping stove that sits on top of your gas top. However, no matter how you want to make this, the ingredients are super simple. Number one, some form of frozen taquitos. Number two, some form of enchilada sauce, either red or green. And then depending on which one of those sauces that you chose, you're either going to pick some sour cream and green chilies to go with the green sauce, or you're going to pick up some black olives to go with the red sauce. It's that simple. And then you just sprinkle some cheese on top and you let it bake. Okay, I made it back to camp, and now comes the fun part. I get to put all the ingredients together and put them in the RoadPro. Now this is super simple again, but I'm going to start off with my wet ingredients, getting them all mixed up, and in order to do that I needed to pull out this guy because I need to use the can opener. Unfortunately, they didn't have any cans that had the little pop tops on them, so I'm going to have to use the can opener and hope for the best. Sometimes this goes well, sometimes this goes poorly, but today, rolling up the sleeves. This is going to be the hardest part of the entire endeavor, opening the cans. So first and foremost, I have my green chili enchilada sauce. I need to open this up and add it to the bowl. And then also I have a can of hatch chilies, just green hatch chilies. Both of these are going to go in here, and then I'm going to add some sour cream. So is it going to work today? This can opener is a little hit or miss, and sometimes I can get it to work in the upright, and sometimes I can get it to work on the side. Okay, it worked. So now I just pour this in, and then I move on to this guy. Oh yeah, there we go. We got it. So then I can just take this, pull it back, and dump this in from a lower distance and kind of shield it from popping out, because sometimes it gets a little messy. Now, typically when I make this at my base camp, I'm making it so I can eat it for a few days. And I mix up a whole bunch of stuff, and I make either a large like baking pan, or I make an 8x8, depending on how many days I'm going to be eating this. But today I'm going to try to make a single serving. So even though I'm making all of this sauce, I'm going to end up putting some of this sauce away so I can use it for another meal, and then I can make single servings, which is so great. So with that said, the next thing up is some sour cream. And with this, I just kind of squirt it in until it gets to a certain consistency. Now the consistency I'm looking for is I need it to be a little bit less runny than it currently is, but at the same time I don't need it to be white like sour cream. So I need it to be like a nice greenish tone still, almost like a pea soup color. So with that said, I'm just gonna go for it. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Now this isn't quite enough, so I'm gonna add a little tiny bit more to this. Right about there. Right about there. And then I'm going to mix everything together. Blend, blend, blend. Now I usually mix this for a good 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure it's nicely blended. And that makes sure that I don't have any like lumps of green chilies that are just stuck together or anything like that. But also it makes sure that I have a nice consistency throughout. Now at this point, I could technically just dive in with some chips and this is good. This is super good. You can use this as a chilled dip just as is, or you could actually add a little bit more sour cream to give it a little bit more substance if you wanted this as a dip. But we're not going for a dip. We're going for an enchilada bake or a taquito bake. Now, the key to this is finding the taquitos that you like. It doesn't have to be one set of taquitos. You can literally get any kind of taquitos. I do recommend if you are using the green chili sauce that you use a chicken-based taquito. However, it just makes it kind of marry better with the flavors. I usually prefer the beef taquitos for the red sauce, the chicken taquitos for the green sauce. Now this is where our pan comes in. I just use these small aluminum pans in my RoadPro. They are what are suggested for use in this. You can use other things. However, finding something that is the right size is very difficult. So I just use the aluminum. Don't worry guys, the RoadPro does not get to the temperature that makes aluminum toxic. It stays just below that number, so you are fine to use aluminum. If you are hesitant, however, I encourage you to look at other options, and that is up to you as to what you choose to use. But again, this is a dish that can be cooked in any kind of cooking device. You can use one of those pop-out stoves that can be placed on top of your butane stove. You can actually use an Omnia like Riley did. You can even make this, if you really, really want to, in the Ridge Monkey. And I think that's what's really great. It just takes a little bit of engineering it to the design of what you want to do. You could also pop this into one of your little plastic bins to put into your Hot Logic. It will take a little bit longer, but it will work. And if you're doing any of these, I encourage you to leave the taquitos out for just a little bit so they're not hard frozen, because if they're hard frozen, it's going to take much longer for this to cook. But with that said, in we go. We're going to line the bottom of this with taquitos. And then as always, I'm not going to cook all of these because that's a lot of food. That's 18 taquitos. That's way too much for just me. But what I can do is make a proper serving size for myself, and then again, save this sauce, and I can have this meal more than once, and I can just assemble it while I'm going down the road and have a hot meal. So, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's try not to pop this bag. Okay, so taquitos have been sitting out for a few minutes. They're not completely frozen. They're still pretty hard, but they're starting to get to the point where they're a little bit more comfortable. So I know it's not going to take as long. So I'm just going to fill up my little container with taquitos as just one layer. And then I'm going to put a little bit of sauce, a little bit of cheese, and then another layer, and then a little bit of sauce and a little bit of cheese. So these aren't going to quite be the same length as the pan, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 down, and then if I can break one, they're still a little bit too frozen for that. There we go. Then I'm going to put those on the end. Then we have a nice base. Then I'm going to go over with some of the sauce, just a tiny bit to get them kind of damp, but not soaked. And then I'm just going to coat the top of all of them to make sure that they have a little bit of that flavor, a lot of those little green chilies, to make it have just such a better overall deliciousness. And then I'm going to kind of move it around, make sure it's in all the cracks and crevices. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit more so it also fills in around the edges. The key to this is if you like a good enchilada with a good enchilada sauce on it, you already know that the key to it is to make it delightful and absorb all of the textures and the flavors. And so this is our version of doing that. So after we get it coated about like this, I'm going to go in with some cheese. Now, ultimately, any cheese will do. With this, I just have a pack of mixed cheeses, and normally I like to stick to like a good white cheese on this, but at the same time, I didn't want to be wasteful and then purchase another kind of cheese just to make this dish. And van life is about making do with what you have sometimes. So this is going to be a yellow and white blend. It also has a little bit of pepper jack in there. So a good little coating there so that in the middle it's nice and cheesy. And then we're going to go in with some more taquitos, and I'm going to build from the opposite side this time. And so we have 3 across. Actually, there's a little hole there. We might even be able to get 4 in here. I don't know. A skinny one? Is there a skinny one present? Nope, those are too big. So we're going to break it, and we're going to put it on the end. We're going to push everything down really, really well. And then we're going to repeat the process. We're just going to put this on top. Last but not least, of course, the cheese. And I'm just going to go over and make sure that all of it has a little tiny bit of cheese. It doesn't need to be necessarily very thick. It just can be a little bit. But more so, it's about getting everything to kind of marry together for the perfect bite. There we go. Now, when I make this at my house, I don't layer it. I just have it as a single layer. However, because I want to maximize the use of the RoadPro, I have to use this kind of container. And so I could just make 1 layer, or I could make this and then turn it more into what I would consider a bake or a casserole. And this is going to be absolutely delightful. Again, go watch Riley's video to see how she made this in the Omnia using the red sauce. It was absolutely delightful also, and I'm so happy that I was able to share this fun little simple recipe with her. But that's the best thing about having friends on the road. We can kind of lean on each other and say, hey, have you tried this? Oh, have you tried this? You might want to try it this way. Oh, I made it in this device. And because of that, we can have a larger fount of knowledge overall onto things that might be comfort food, or might be easy, or might be convenient. On a busy day, I might not have enough time to pop out my full camp stove and do a big setup. Although I do love doing that, and I really enjoy taking the time to have those moments. Sometimes just putting something like this together, throwing it into my good old RoadPro right here, and then being able to close it up and go down the road and have cooked food is definitely a value. Now tonight I'm just sitting around at camp, but I thought this was good because again, it's pretty chilly. And okay, I've got my leftover sauce and then also my taquitos in these reusable bags. I always encourage you guys to check out the reusable bags because they are so good. Not to mention these are awesome for putting them in the refrigerator or the freezer. So I've got them all zipped up and now it's time to put them away so I can get to cooking. Okay, it's cooking. It's cooking. Now just for a reference, the RoadPro pulls about 130 watts on a typical 1000 watt power station. I have the Jackery V2 here and I just got everything started, so we're going to kind of figure out how long this takes to cook. Okay, so it is 7:25. I just put it in. We're going to see how long this takes. I'm going to set an alarm for about 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I'll check it out and see kind of where we're at. If it isn't as frozen, 20 minutes is enough time to heat it completely. So if you let them thaw out instead of having them be rock hard, you could have your meal in 20 minutes. So that's kind of a nice thing. So if you were planning to do this meal at camp and you knew that you'd picked up the groceries and it took you about 15 to 20 to get out to the campsite, instead of throwing them in the refrigerator, just leave them out so they can defrost a little bit, and it makes it so much faster when you actually get to the cook stage. But I'll check it in 20 minutes to see how close we are because they were a little bit more frozen than not, as you saw from the break. Okay, I have been going for 20 minutes, and so now it's time to look inside. Ooh, I can definitely smell the sauce, and I'm hearing a little bit of sizzle, but as you can see, the cheese has not yet gotten to the melty stage, so it's definitely not done yet. But, ooh, I can already smell the sauce, so it is getting warm. And that is so happy. So I'm just going to leave this in here for a little bit longer. I'm going to set my clock for another like 20 minutes probably, and we'll see where we end up. But before we do, let's see. Right now we are at 96%. We've only lost 4% of the battery at this point in 20 minutes. That's not bad. So by that math, we should have lost like 8%, maybe 9% of the battery by the time that we get 40 minutes in. So let's do 20 more minutes just to see. Now, something else I like to do is add some different textures sometimes whenever I'm eating. So I picked up these Santitas, the cilantro lime and cilantro limon. And these are so tasty, but I wanted just a few of them and then also something different. Because I couldn't find just a very tiny portion of the black beans, I picked up this pork and black bean dip, and I thought that with the santitas that would be really good today. So altogether, this gives me a little bit of a spicy to go along with the chips, which have the lime, which is going to pair so well with this green chile sauce. Okay, the alarm just went off. It is time. It is time. Oh, that looks delicious. So perfect. The cheese is oh so melty. And I can hear it sizzling. Time to eat. Looks like we lost 8% cooking this meal on a 1,000-watt power station. That's not bad. Of course, though, if you were cooking this while driving down the road, you'd still have a full battery. So that's normally when I do my RoadPro cooking. It just makes the most sense. But ooh, this is about to be good. Okay, this is a good starting place right here. I like to a lot of times serve up a smaller portion just because it gets kind of chilly in the night here, and that way my food doesn't have enough exposure to the cold sometimes so it cools off before I'm ready to eat it. But yeah, this is it. Super simple, absolutely delicious and easy, and now it's time for the bite. So here we go. I'm just gonna get a little bit of the taquito with the sauce and the cheese. Ooh, it's pretty warm. It's pretty warm. That is exactly like when I make it at home. That's so good. This is so delightful. Everybody can do it. And if you are interested in this, again, try out the variations. Try the red sauce with the black olives. It's very tasty with a little bit of sharp cheddar. So yeah, I'm going to finish my dinner. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me for my simple meal in my RoadPro, and I will see you guys next time. Remember, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and that means a good bite, so I'm going to get to it because I am starving. And after smelling all of those smells, yeah, it's time to eat. Bye!